Hi, it's me, Sir JP, and welcome to my series of online lectures for philosophy suited for senior high school students. God created all organisms according to their respective purposes. Humans were created by God for a purpose, and that purpose is to become rational beings. When we talk of the word rational, we talk about how we reason out. There is beauty in this because reason separates us from all the other organisms on the planet. We know how to reason. However, human beings tend to be very good at reasoning, but not reasoning logically. It takes a learned man equipped with proper knowledge and exercised wisdom in order to reason out properly. This is the main purpose of our class under the Introduction to the Philosophy of Man. I am Sir JP Peñol, and I hope you will join me as we discuss philosophy in its simplified form. Philosophy is a broad subject, but since we only have limited time, I will try my best to simplify the terms and provide quick yet clear discussions on various topics. We will deal with the fundamentals of the subject because in-depth discussions will be provided to you when you reach college for the subject Understanding the Self. We will be using this book as our reference. It is entitled Introduction to Philosophy, Big Ideas Simplified. It is a book I published last 2018 and is being used by students from Iloilo Merchant Marine School and some other universities across the Philippines. Sadly, this book is currently out of stock. But if you wish to purchase an e-copy of the book, you may send me a message over my Facebook account. I am glad to have you here under my class. Amidst the threat of coronavirus, we are trying our best to reach to all of you through this online platform. At the end of the semester, I hope you will become rational thinkers. People who think twice, one who cites evidences, reads journals, processes their thoughts before providing conclusions. So, let's get it on. Unit 1. Unit 1 talks about philosophy as a branch of science. Philosophy is such a huge subject that it is actually difficult to break it down into manageable and logical sections. Perhaps, the basic geographical split that we can consider is by geological means, Western and Eastern philosophy. I would like to tell you that we are not born philosophers. Rather, philosophy is born within us, sometimes late in life, especially when we discover that we believe that what we believe in are honestly not working for us. We begin with this quotation from Bertrand Russell, a 19th century philosopher who was credited as one of the founders of analytic philosophy, which mostly focuses on logic as a tool for solving mathematical problems. He said that the trouble with the world is that stupid people are confidently sure and the intelligent are full of doubt. Well, honestly, believe me when I tell you that there are lots of people across the globe who just reason out confidently even though they are not yet sure of what they say. It means they lack to cite evidences, and provide research-based conclusions just to support their claims. While I have also known a lot of people, most of them graduated with Latin honors, or those who finished their doctorate degrees, yet they are still unsure of their doing or what they see or what they read. And in view of that, they do some research and look for evidences before saying anything just to make sure. Beloved students, don't be that confident person. The purpose of philosophy is to always dig down the established facts and principles and support it with needed evidences. However, sometimes we lose to people. We lose to people just because they have good rhetoric skill. Yung bang magaling mag-convince. Yun bang magaling mag-sales talk. Yet at the end of the day, we realize we are being fooled. They have the ability to persuade other people that their claims are true. Don't be fooled. How? Don't make decisions when you haven't thought of it well. So how? Take your time. Process your thoughts and make that crucial decision. When that decision fails, there is no harm in trying again. Students, if you are a lover of wisdom, you will even try to do some research about everything I say to you today. Well, just in case you doubt. But ladies and gentlemen, I really want you to doubt, because philosophy invites us to dare to know the truth. On a personal level, when you are being true to yourself, you are completely honest with what you feel, deeply value, and desire. It also means communicating your feelings wholeheartedly, both with yourself and others, allowing your truth to flow through you and into the world. In the study of philosophy, it must be known that truth can be twisted throughout the years because of translations and various interpretations. That is why it is important for us to know the origin. We have to define the word based on its origin. This study is known as etymology. Etymology is the study of tracing the origin of words from its ancestral form. In this course, we shall be dealing with words which may be unfamiliar with you. This is the reason why we need to go back in time and know the source or the origin of a particular word so we could move forward. Like for instance, the word definition. Definition could be sourced from its Latin word definire, which means set bounds to. This word eventually led to the establishment of two Latin words, definiendum and definiens. In a definition, the term being defined is definiendum, while the meaning of the word is known as definiens. Like for instance, the word philosophy. Philosophy here is the definiendum, while its meaning, which is the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, is known as the definiens. Again, definiendum is the term being defined, and definiens is the defining term. Let's proceed. Philosophy comes from the Greek word philosophia, which means the love of wisdom. Bakit ba natin nasabi na philosophy is love of wisdom at hindi love of knowledge? For the purposes of this lecture, let us differentiate knowledge and wisdom. Now, knowledge are acquired facts and principles, while wisdom is processed knowledge. So, when they say knowledge is power, you only have that power. But wisdom gives you the capability to exercise that power. Here's a classic example. Knowledge is knowing that this shape is a triangle. But wisdom is knowing that this shape is triangle because it has 3 sides and 3 angles. So every time you see a shape that has 3 sides and 3 angles, immediately what comes to your mind is that that shape is a triangle. So I hope you already know the difference between knowledge and wisdom. In fact, according to Pythagoras, a Greek philosopher famous for his Pythagorean theorem, he said that there are 3 types of persons in the world. One who loves pleasure and happiness, one who loves success, and one who loves to be mentally stimulated, or the lover of wisdom. Pythagoras tells us that the most supreme of all is someone who loves to continuously question his beliefs, one who doubts and goes for an adventure to know the truth. Philosophy is only one of the many branches of science, which origins come from the Latin word sire, meaning to know. When knowing something, it is not enough to just accept that it exists. Philosophers ask the question, why does it exist? We shall also touch ng very slight the various branches of philosophy in our lectures. Ethics will help us realize why we should live and how one should live. Metaphysics will provide us an array of things which exists and what comprises those things. Epistemology provides us the limits of knowledge. But wait, is there even a limit to knowledge? Our mind will always break the limits, I say. Logic allows us to deeply examine our thoughts, whether we deal with our own reasoning soundly. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, beloved students, philosophy is the investigation of the nature, the causes and its effects, the principles of what is real, the scope of knowledge, what values to uphold based on logical reasoning rather than just conclude based on what one immediately sees. The next chapter will deal with knowledge, wisdom, and how to properly put a sound argument. Going back to what we discussed earlier, philosophy's goal is to know the truth. And having said that, the goal of philosophy is not just to win any argument, but to also present an argument which is anchored on truth, validity, and correctness. That is why I always say to my students, arguments should always be true, valid, and correct. We are now on the verge to winning arguments. But before that, syempre, we need to define what argument is. Argument is an inferential thinking composed of a premise from which a conclusion is made. Remember that any conclusion should be supported by a fact, a belief, a principle, or something which has good basis. These must be known as your premises. I'll give you 2 examples. Take note that the premises always precede the conclusion. In this case, the first two statements are premises, and the third one is the conclusion. Let me read. Everything that is created has a purpose. This is a generic statement because it says that everything, yes, totally everything included, has a purpose. Second statement, human beings are created. This is a specific statement. Following the first statement that if everything that is created has a purpose, therefore, we can immediately conclude that human beings have a purpose, and that will make a good conclusion. Second example, I will eat when I am hungry. This is a generic statement that you eat every time you feel hungry. Now the second statement says, I am hungry. Well, because you eat when you are hungry and you are hungry now, therefore the conclusion is that you will eat. That's the basic of arguments. Now, after determining if the statements are true, we shall also learn to determine whether the argument is sound. An argument is sound if the statements are true and it follows a logical sequence. Like in this case, since all statements are true and it logically leads to the conclusion, then the argument is sound. Arguments will be tested also according to its validity. Validity is the state of an argument to be considered acceptable. Now the question arises, how to measure if the statement is valid or not? Let me answer that. An argument is valid if and only if all of the premises are true, or the supporting statements are true, and the conclusion is also true. If all premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. Because it would be impossible that if all premises are true, the conclusion would be false. In order to consider an argument valid, there are several factors to look at. Here are the factors of validity. There are actually 5. Knowledge. Knowledge, as earlier stated, knowledge are acquired facts which needs to be processed. Once knowledge is processed, knowledge becomes wisdom. The second factor of validity is confidence. Confidence is a feeling of self-assurance from and certainty of what you consider to be true. Third, belief. Belief, it is the level of acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. Truth. Truth is something that is true based on your acquired facts and reality. And last but not the least, good basis. Good basis, statements which stems from reliable sources. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that not everything that you see or hear are true, especially on the internet. Some of them are considered fake news or doctored ideas. It really pays to check your sources so that you will be led to what is true, valid, and correct. Let's proceed. Now, I'll give you a sample of a valid argument here. Let's read. All monkeys are primates. All primates are mammals. Therefore, all monkeys are mammals. First statement. This statement is a general statement. Now the question is it true that all monkeys are primates? If it is true, then let's proceed to the second statement. All primates are mammals. What are mammals anyway? Mammals are group of vertebrate animals which is characterized by the presence of mammary glands, which in females, produce milk to feed their offspring. Now, can you think of any primate which are not considered mammals? If not, then we consider this statement as true as well. Last statement is the conclusion based on the first two premises. Having said that all monkeys are primates, then all primates are mammals. Then it could be safe to call that all monkeys are mammals. This would make a sound and valid argument. Now, I am giving you a sample of an invalid argument here. All alligators lay eggs. All eggs are laid from birds. Therefore, all alligators are birds. Statement number 1. Statement number 1, all alligators lay eggs, is a general statement which says that all alligators, meaning all species of alligators, lay eggs. Now, can you think of any alligator which does not lay eggs? If not, then this statement is true. Now let's look at the second statement. All eggs are laid from birds. Now, you have to ask yourself, mga ibon lang ba ang nangingitlog? Other animals which also lay eggs are reptiles. In fact, there are also mammals which lay eggs, like platypus. Because of these facts, statement number 2 is false, that all eggs are laid from birds. Therefore, it would be impossible that the conclusion is true based on the premises because not all premises in this argument are true. Now, can you say that all alligators are birds? Of course not. Let's proceed. There are 3 types of arguments: deductive, inductive, and abductive. The first one is deductive argument. These are arguments where the premise and the conclusion follows the truth of what is claimed. The truth of the premises guarantee the truth of the conclusion. Example: if it is raining, then the street is wet. It is raining, therefore the streets are wet. Statement number 1 says that if it rains, it could make the street wet. Is it true? Yes, it's true. Statement number 2 is your observation. It is currently raining. Following these premises, saying that if it rains, it makes the street wet, and when it is actually raining, then it is 100% safe to say that the streets are wet. This is a valid deductive argument. Now I'll give you a sample of an invalid deductive argument. Let me read. If it is raining, then the street is wet. The streets are wet. Therefore, it is raining. So ano ang pinagkaiba niya sa unang argument natin? Statement number 1 here is a generalization that when it is raining, the streets are wet. While this statement is true, let us also look at the second statement. The streets are wet. So the observer went outside and saw that the streets are wet. Again, while the second statement might be true, it could not lead to that conclusion. Therefore, it is raining. Bakit? Because it is not only rainwater which could make the streets wet. Probably it is wet because another person spilled buckets of water on the road, or maybe it is the feast of John the Baptist. It's June 24, where people used to throw water bombs at each other. So it does not necessarily mean that the streets are wet because it is raining. This makes the argument invalid. I hope you are still with me. We have 10 slides left for today. The second type of argument is inductive argument. These are arguments based on probable experience. That is why you will notice the word probably often used in these statements. Here is an example. I know 2 customers living in Pavia who pay badly. Therefore, if you know someone from Pavia, he will probably not pay. Looking at the statements, you can immediately tell that this is an invalid argument. Why? Because the argument generalized everybody from that town of Pavia. So if you know customers who live in Pavia, and those customers don't pay on or before the due date you set, you just cannot simply generalize that all people from Pavia are like that. These are hasty generalizations, which makes the argument invalid. The third type of argument is based on experiences. The cause and effect are being considered. These arguments are known as abductive arguments. Let me take this as a sample. In Mark's birthday party last night, Kenneth and Nika ate buko salad. Kenneth and Nika both woke up the next day with a terrible stomach ache. Therefore, Kenneth and Nika ate expired buko salad last night. Basing on the chronological sequence of events, it could be probably inferred that both Kenneth and Nika ate a stale food, the buko salad, the other night. Because both of them ate it and both of them suffered gastrointestinal problems the next day. Therefore, the conclusion might be true that Kenneth and Nika ate expired buko salad last night. We now proceed with the last lesson for Unit 1, the philosophical fields of study. As I said earlier today, that philosophy is composed of a wide array of subjects. While there may be a lot of studies under philosophy, we shall be focusing only on 6 of them. And in the course of our discussions, until the end of the semester, we will be talking a lot of this as part of our insertions for some other lessons. But for the meantime, I will give you a glimpse of the 6 studies. No. Like what I said, philosophy is a broad subject. So if we will talk about philosophy, a semester is not enough. We begin with metaphysics. Metaphysics, one of the most ancient and important branches of philosophy. Metaphysics is the study of the concepts that are beyond the sensible experience. It means this study battles the mind and the actual matter. It also studies empirical justifications based on mere observation and at the same time physics. It aims to study the fundamental nature as things exist in the world. It answers the question, how does it exist? How is it considered real? We will know more of it soon. Second is epistemology. Epistemology is the explanation of how we think. It is required in order to be able to determine what is true from what is false by determining a proper method of evaluation. This is the study of the nature and the scope of knowledge and its justified belief. Third one is ethics. The study of ethics helps a person to look at his own life critically and to evaluate his actions, choices, and decisions. It assists a person in knowing what he or she really is and what is best for him or her and what he or she has to do in order to attain it. In other words, ethics is concerned with questions of how people ought to act. It is grounded on choosing what is right over what is wrong. The power of conscience is important as we study the field of ethics. Next, aesthetics. The goal of philosophy is not just to arrange the contents of our mind, but at the same time to see the beauty in everything around us. Aesthetics is important so that we could understand how to resolve problems such as the ugliness and visual clutter, so as to make places more beautiful and visually pleasing. There is no wonder why ancient world has a lot of statues and beautiful temples. Logic. Logic is essentially the study of reasoning or argumentation. We use reason all the time to draw inferences that are useful to us. In other words, we find beauty in looking for relationship between our thoughts. Like for instance, sa sasakyan. If our car won't start, we reason that the battery may be dead. So we test the battery. But if the battery is proven not to be dead or drained, then we deduce the problem must lie elsewhere. Perhaps with the starter motor. So after that, you can check the starter motor and so on. That is how logic teaches us. And last but not the least is political philosophy. It is viewed as one of the most important intellectual disciplines, for it sets standards of judgment and defines constructive purposes for the use of public power. In other words, this field studies how people interact or politic with each other. It further appreciates answers which provide directions to justice, power, and the rights and obligations of citizens in the community. Like us today, you and I interact, therefore we politic. And I hope you understand what I discussed to you today. Students, this is all for now. We had more or less than an hour of brain stimulation. Introduction pa lang ho tayo, pero mukhang punong-puno na ang mga kukote ninyo. Hanggang sa susunod na episode, it's me, Sir JP. And I thank you for joining me as we discuss Unit 1 of the Introduction for Philosophy for Senior High School students. Before I end, allow me to tell you that God made us for a purpose. Use that purpose well. God bless.